While Nevada still leads the nation in the number of foreclosures, there is a new law coming online this week that might help. The law calls for a mandatory mediation session between homeowners and lenders before a foreclosure can take place. Mediators are currently being trained by the state Supreme Court. Only new foreclosures after July 1st will be eligible for mediation. As promised, we have a representative from the Bankers Association with us this week, Bill Uffelman. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let me start right out. There are some people with the new mandatory mediation that are worried that the banks are going to send somebody to kind of just sit there but not really accomplish anything.
Well, the statute and the rules that presumably the court's working very hard to get those rules promulgated require that, in fact, the lender have somebody with authority to modify the loan available for the mediation. Now, as I understand it, and in the discussions during session, you could have a person at the table who is a representative, but they have to then, via telephonic communication, be able to bring in that person that has the final say-so, that you can have a representative with less than final authority there, but the final authority has to be able to say, yes, we will approve that.
Do your members want to modify these loans?
It beats foreclosure. And I think if you talk to Wells Fargo or B of A or some of the other large banks, and remember that the bulk of the community banks didn't make mortgages in the state. These loans are by larger financial institutions or non-bank financial institutions. A bank may be servicing that loan, but the community banks didn't make them. But the members, we went through the session. We've agreed to what is now AB 149. That's the state, the law in the state of Nevada.
But why did we even have to get into the mandatory mediation? I mean, I know lots of people who are trying to negotiate with the bank and they can't get a call back. They can't get an answer.
First off, there's not only Nevada, but there's hundreds of thousands of people making calls. I know some of the larger institutions, they've got 6,000 people dealing with this now. So the workload is tremendous. In some instances, the servicer, because it was a mortgage-backed security, the people who they are representing, that they are collecting the payments and distributing the payments, some of those people don't want to negotiate. The servicer is not empowered to negotiate. So it depends who has your mortgage, who the lender is, and all of these circumstances as to whether or not prior to this mediation you've had the opportunity to have a discussion. A lot of people who say, well, yeah, I tried. Well, how hard did you try? Did you call every day? Did you call 5 times a day? Or did you call once, you got put on hold, and that was it?
Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides of it, but people, as you know, are frustrated. So I guess my question now, too, is some people are saying that after we have a couple months of this mandatory mediation under our belts, and Hardesty figures it could be 1,200 to 1,400 mediations a month, that perhaps the banks could then offer this voluntarily without having to wait till you go to foreclosure.
Well, the banks right now, from the moment you miss a payment, remember, you don't get to foreclosure. You don't get to the filing of that 90-day letter until you've missed typically at least 3 payments. Are you even talking to the bank? The bank calls on the 16th day and says, Mrs. Smith, have you mailed your payment? You don't return the call. I mean, there are opportunities leading up to this. When the speaker first introduced the bill, when she was framing the bill, we went in and said, look, if a bank has an aggressive workout program, can they be exempt from it? California had written rules last year that basically said if a bank can show that it has a workout program, they don't need to get to this mediation because they've already tried to mediate. They've tried to have a conversation with the borrower and reach the goal.
Right. And I understand that, but there are some times when consumers call, and I've listened to those calls, where they're told they can't even begin to have a negotiation until they're behind in their payment.
And the programs as offered by the United States government at this point in time, which are the programs that they're working against, the Fannie and Freddie workouts and all the others, there's only one that has you in positive territory, that you've been making your payments, and that one limits the workout to 105% LTV. Well, my house is typical. My house is worth 1/3 less than what I paid for it. I'm in negative territory. I make my payments. I can't do a workout. I have income that says I'm not distressed. So I mean, there are all these factors that go into it. I don't qualify for the program, and I'm not about to ruin my credit by not making payments.
All right, well, we will see the mediations start. They expect to start in August. I want to remind, thank you for coming, by the way, I want to remind our viewers that there's some things you need to know. The homeowner is the one who must request mediation. Now you'll get a form with your notice of default or foreclosure, and it'll tell you where to file. And the cost is going to be split between the homeowner and the lender. That's $200 each. If you need a translator, the homeowner will be responsible for paying for that. There's now some consumer protection for renters. A new federal law provides a 90-day eviction notice to renters in the case of foreclosure. Until now, many renters would come home to find a 3-day notice of eviction. And oftentimes, the renter had no knowledge that the property was in foreclosure. And as promised, we have an expert with us today to explain some of these new laws from Nevada Legal Services, Ray Gerken. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So the new 90-day rules for the feds gives renters a longer time before they can be evicted. Do they also have an opportunity, if the place goes into foreclosure, to perhaps stay until the end of their lease?
Yes, they do. The new law does give tenants with existing leases that are unexpired, the opportunity to potentially remain in the home for the remainder of the lease, even if it's sold at a foreclosure sale. There are some limited exceptions, one of them being if the person who purchased the home at the foreclosure sale is actually an owner-occupier, somebody that wants to move into the home as their primary residence. They can then give the tenant the 90-day notice, even if their lease is unexpired. Okay, but then maybe if it's a lender or somebody else that's just buying it up, then you could stay till the end of your lease potentially. Yes, potentially. If it's a bank, another investor that's not going to use it as a primary residence, you might actually be able to stay until the end of your lease.
And we're cautioning people, though, because I know, and we're going to send them to a website, some people are still getting like 3-day notices instead of the 90 days.
Yes, we're actually seeing a lot of that. There's a lot of players in the foreclosure arena. You've got the lenders that are foreclosing, then you've got potentially banks or investors that are buying, or even the same lender is purchasing it at the foreclosure sale because nobody else is buying the property. You've got the real estate agents or the asset managers that are working for the banks in the eviction process after the foreclosure. So there's a lot of parties to tell the new laws to, and I think some things are going to slip through the cracks if they're not paying attention to the changes in the laws.
Okay, which is why tenants have to get themselves up to speed on this. Let me ask you too, we've got a new state law coming in on October 1st. And that means for the first time, tenants are going to get notified if there's a foreclosure, correct?
Yes. Under AB 140, the new law, the notice provisions are going to go to tenants. So the notice of default and election to sell, which is the first notice that gets recorded and sent to the homeowner, is actually now going to be required to go to tenants in the property as well. The tenants are also going to get the notice of sale. So the notice that actually sets the sale date for the foreclosure must go to the tenants. And along with that sale notice, another notice must go to the tenants explaining what their rights and remedies are post foreclosure sale. You know, what's going to happen with their tenancy after they move out, or after the foreclosure sale, and when they have to move out.
So this is going to give renters an opportunity then to figure out in enough time where to go, where to move.
Yes, it's going to, one of the biggest problems we've had with this crisis in renters is that they don't even know that the home's in foreclosure.
Exactly.
So now that they're going to be warned at least 3 weeks before the sale, they're going to get the notice of sale that it's potentially going to be sold. At that point in time, they can start looking for a new place to go. The notice is also going to need to explain how much time after the sale they might have through the eviction process. The new 90-day notice needs to be included. They need to be notified that they're going to potentially get 90 days or 60 under the new law, but there's distinctions. And then they can start preparing, looking for a new place, packing up, whatever they need to do.
Great. I want to thank you so much for your organization's work on this bill and trying to get the word out. And if you grab a pen, we're going to give you some numbers to call to get more information. You can call Nevada Legal Services at 386-0404 and ask for the Self-Help Rental Center.